Who is suffering? Is Bobby suffering? No. Bobby has just sold his company that he has shitloads of shares in because he's been paid in shares for the last 20 years. That company's just been sold for $70 billion. How much money do you think? Like, everyone talks about Bobby's payoff, but how much does he make for those shares? However many billions Bobby Kotick was worth before the sale, he's worth a whole lot more afterwards. So has he suffered? No. Probably has paid a bit when it comes to public image, though. Who cares? He doesn't care. Does Bobby Kotick strike you as the kind of man that cares about his public image? This man is worth $10 billion, right? This is his haircut. There are very few people on earth who I have a better haircut than, okay? If you're a billionaire and this is your haircut, you don't give a fuck what people think of you. That is the beginning and the end of the conversation. And this absolute shit, this guy, he's like, no mucking around. He is the worst person on fucking earth. Except he's not. He's not the worst person on earth. He's actually nowhere near the worst person on earth. But look how fucking awful this guy is, right? Look at this shit that he fucking says. Don't forget. So Fran Townsend, he fucking loves people in power, and people in power love him. He doesn't care about you. He loves important people like Fran Townsend, who worked for the Bush administration. There are so many Bush and Trump people at important roles at Activision Blizzard. He cares about that class of person. He cares about powerful government people. And he happens to go a bit more towards the right and give loads of money to Republicans, but it could just as easily be liberal people. Activision Blizzard is staffed by a lot of very important Republican people because of that. And that's what he cares about. But don't you remember when Fran Townsend, who is a literal torture apologist, she wrote that fucking letter basically telling women at the company to shut up, and that there is no way that any sexual harassment was happening at Activision Blizzard, because if there were, she wouldn't be working for the company. And so the fact that she is working for the company is in itself evidence that there is no sexual harassment at Activision Blizzard. That was literally the reasoning in the letter. And then Bobby Kotick came out the next day and was like, that was a terrible thing to do, Fran. I condemn this letter. When everyone threw shit about that letter and was like, I can't believe she wrote this is awful. Bobby Kotick the next day came out and was like, yeah, you're right, terrible letter. I'm going to be having words with Fran about that letter she wrote. And then it turned out Bobby Kotick wrote the letter. We're talking about a guy, okay, that wrote a letter for a woman in his employ to put out saying that there was no sexual harassment or sexism at Activision Blizzard. Then the next day, he came out and totally threw her under the fucking bus for the letter that he wrote. This is what an absolute scumbag this guy is. Now, I don't feel any sympathy for Fran Townsend because she's a piece of fucking shit. She is an awful human being who, let's not forget, thinks torture is okay. It's not, Fran. Fran, torture is not okay and objectively doesn't work. So the only reason you would ever make a case for torture, genuinely, is because you like torturing people. Like, it's proven not to get information out of people. So the only reason you would ever make an argument for torture is if you think that some people just deserve to be fucking tortured. And you know that, Fran. You know it doesn't fucking work. I know you've read the same fucking reports that I have. So I have no and you know what, even if it did work, I still don't really think it's okay, but the fact is it doesn't work. So I've got no problems with Fran being thrown under the bus, honestly. But the fact that he obviously thinks that she's a good person, that's why he hired her, he threw her under the bus. He wrote a letter for her and then criticized, a fucking horrible letter, by the way, that should never have been written, and then criticized her publicly for the letter that he wrote. He's a piece of shit. Was the sexual harassment investigation a factor in this, as it certainly seemed to affect the stock price? To which Kotick replies, I think that what affected the stock... This is how Bobby Kotick talks, by the way. Nobody knows why. I think that what affected the stock price more than that is pushing out Overwatch and Diablo. And then I think people started to see that this year's Call of Duty wasn't performing as well. So I think certainly the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing filing and the Wall Street Journal article contributed to that, but stocks go up and down for a variety of reasons. Absolute piece of fucking shit. Absolute fucking piece of shit. Now, you know what? There's probably a kernel of truth in what he's saying. Certainly, Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 being behind have probably had an effect on the stock price, but not as much as the sexual harassment allegations, Bobby. And you can prove that just by looking at a timeline of the stocks and how they line up to the sexual harassment allegations and the way that you've dealt with them. The allegations didn't happen and then people started caring about Overwatch and Diablo, although I think people would have forgiven the sexual harassment stuff much easier if you had suddenly had news about Diablo and Overwatch. Depressingly, unfortunately, that's probably true. So yeah, unfortunately, it's probably true that they could have actually mitigated some of the damage from the harassment allegations by having some news on Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, for sure. But to suggest that that was the reason they fell, what a piece of fucking shit. And even if that were 100% true, even if what he's saying here were true, it's his fucking fault. If there is no news on Diablo and Overwatch, it's his fucking fault. Because he sucks money out of the fucking company for himself and for the other shareholders that could be invested back into the company to pay their workers fucking wages that compare to the rest of the industry, and maybe then they would be able to make games on fucking time. Don't forget, the people at Blizzard get paid absolute fucking shit. Why? So Bobby can have a yacht, but also so that all the shareholders can get sucked off by strawberries all day as well. Don't fucking forget that. The money that these game developers earn by making fucking games, they don't get it. They don't see it. They get paid under the average for the industry because everyone knows that people want to work at Blizzard because they want to work on these franchises. Does he put that money back into the fucking company? Does he fuck? He puts it up his ass. And he puts it up the ass of his shareholders. Because God forbid their asses aren't full of fucking money. God forbid that they don't make growth every year. God forbid that if they made 10 billion last year, they don't make 10 billion and 1 this year. God forbid that they only make 9 billion. If Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 are behind, then that's one of the fucking reasons why. Let the fucking workers, the people who make these games, the ones who develop these games, the ones who code these games, the one who design assets for these games, let them see some of this fucking money. Maybe they'll get finished on time. But as it happens, billions and billions of dollars that these game developers earn through their work and their art and their creation disappears, and it goes to people who have done fuck all work. And I don't think that's okay. And you know what? I think the workers would be a fuck ton more motivated to get stuff done on time if they had all the resources that they needed, if they were paid industry standard, which they are not, and if they were given the respect of not being fucking shat on by people like Bobby Kotick. Do we play WoW here or just talk about it? We're having a little chat. It's okay, we can chat. Anyway, he's a piece of fucking shit. What else has he said? He's such a dick. I hate him so much. But he's not even slightly the worst person in the industry. That's the thing. But he is a fucking terrible human being, and it's okay to be incredibly happy that he's gone, or he's gonna go, because it looks like he is gonna go. He did a call with Blizzard's staff yesterday. Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick held a video conference with employees today, answering questions read by Chief People Officer Julie Hodges. Kotick's fireside chat discussed the future of the company. So this is funny. First and foremost, Kotick attempted to assuage fears of layoffs or downsizing. Now, I would like you to put in the chat, because genuinely, we might disagree on this. I would like you to put a Y in chat if you agree with Bobby that there won't be layoffs and downsizing. And I would like you to put an X in chat for Xbox if you think maybe there probably will be. I'd like to see a quick straw poll on this one. Yeah, so I think it's fair to say the majority of people... Why? Because I was born 5 minutes ago. I think it happened at Bethesda when Microsoft took them over. I think it's almost certain to happen here, which is why it's such bad timing for the people trying to unionize at Blizzard, honestly. Ultimately, isn't it up to Microsoft? Yeah, well, true. But then it would also be in Microsoft's interests, if they do want cuts and stuff to go through, to get Bobby Kotick to do them, dead man walking, before they actually take over, so they don't have to take the blame for it, right? In a somewhat maddeningly unspecific SEC information filing on the proposed sale, Activision Blizzard similarly stated that there were no plans to lay off existing employees. I think they said that 2 days before they sacked a third of their employees one time. Although the statement largely covered the period up until formal acquisition rather than what might happen after. That said, ZeniMax Media, Bethesda Softworks ID, Arcane Machine Games, was also formally acquired by Microsoft in 2021 with no reports of notable downsizing. I'm not sure if that's true. I'm happy to be wrong. I hope that there was no notable downsizing, but I seem to remember that there was. I'm happy to be wrong about that. I hope I am. I hope I'm wrong. The transition is going to be smooth because Microsoft is committed to trying to retain as many of our people as possible. And I believe that. But there's unfortunately, there are clearly going to be layoffs. And the thing is, in the games industry, which is shockingly ununionized, and where the pay is shockingly bad because everyone wants to work there, and where there is so much money to be made and so much growth to be made by a bunch of people who make all their money from the games industry but don't really care about games, layoffs, mass layoffs, are literally part of the business model, you know? The people that got laid off at Blizzard a couple of years ago in those mass layoffs, and it was a fucking massacre. It wasn't the biggest layoff that Blizzard have ever done in one go in terms of like a percentage of their workers, because that was in 2013. Like, you know, Blizzard were reporting record profits and they all got sacked anyway. It's a genuine part of the business model. When you have a system which is based on growth, mass layoffs and treating your labor like shit and exploiting them are literally part of the business model. Of course they are. Capitalism might well breed innovation, but a huge portion of that innovation is just new and interesting and imaginative ways to exploit your labor and to get the most work out of your labor for the least money. Like, there's other innovation that happens in capitalism too, of course, but that is absolutely one of the main areas of innovation, is how to fuck over your workers and not pay them and not allow them to be protected. I googled this year, but apparently Bethesda employees didn't like Microsoft policies, and that went to them leaving en masse, not being laid off. Oh, interesting. I'm pretty sure that Phil's business model is very, very different. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Have you seen how much he likes games? Yeah. Dude's a Chad. Just like your Barra, right? Oh, and there were some brilliant fucking tweets on this from people that work for Blizz. Amazing how we work our asses off, take crit psychic damage, continue to work our asses off, take more psychic damage, work our asses off, lose people, work our asses off, more damage, and yet somehow it's still our fault. It's as if nothing bad ever happened. Fuck right off. That's from a Overwatch employee, concept artist. I just cannot with this. Are you kidding me right now? Throwing game devs under the bus rather than taking responsibility for the culture he helped to foster? That's a WoW employee. The fucking balls on this guy. Bobby Kotick, you absolute piece of garbage. You know exactly why delays were happening, and you know for sure the real reason stock prices dropped, you sentient mound of toxic sludge. Former producer at Blizz. Hey Bobby, remember when you showed up at our all hands and said there are no expectations for a date, just make it great? Because we all sure as hell remember, not a single one of us is going to fall for your gaslighting and continued failure to take responsibility. From a product manager at Blizz Entertainment. So yeah, it's interesting to see the responses here, because people who work at Blizz certainly don't fucking think it's their fault. Yeah, Kotick's a piece of fucking shit. And it's okay to be happy that he's gone, honestly. Thanks everyone for a brilliant week. And it has been a brilliant week. We've had a really good time. We've done some dancing. We've done some talking. We've put the world to rights. Fuck you, Bob. Fuck you, Bobby Kotick.